This is Amud Yomi Gemara Berachos Daf Nun Beis Amud Aleph Baruch Hashem. We began the 8th perek in the previous year, and we ended off the long and lengthy Mishnah. So we're on the bottom of Nun Aleph Amud Beis, about 10 lines from the bottom, just beginning the Gemara. The theme of the Mishnah was Gezeros, Machlokeisim, Beis Shammai versus Beis Hillel. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, Devarim shebein Beis Shammai ubein Devarim shebein Beis Shammai ubeis Hillel b'suda. Items that Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel disagree with regard to a suda. Beis Shammai says you first make a bracha on the day, you make kiddush al hayom, and then why? Because why are you making kiddush? You're making kiddush because it's Shabbos, because it's Yantif, and therefore says Beis Shammai, the day comes first. Ukvar kiddush hayom, but laba, and therefore the day comes first, and then comes the wine. Whereas Beis Hillel, which of course is what we do, Mavarach Aliyayin, just think Friday night, Yom HaShishi of course, but then the Etzem Bracha is Bayer Priya Gafen, and then Mekadosh is Shabbos. Why? Shayayin Garin L'Kedusha Shetiamer. Because the wine causes the Kedusha, the sanctification to be said. Another reason, Berachos Hayayin Tedira. We have a concept that the bracha of the wine is more common, Berachos Hayaminu Tedira, and therefore, Tadir Sheinai, Tadir Kaidem, that which is more common comes first. Says the Gemara, why does Beis Hillel need two reasons? Number one, that the wine is that which we sanctify with, and number two, that Tadir. Says the Gemara, and if you're going to say that one reason by itself is not enough, that the first reason that the yain is goyrim, the kedusha sheteamer, is not enough. Why? Because Beis Shammai we have two reasons, but by us we only have one reason. The second reason being says the Gemara, why do you have to tell me halacha kedivri Beis Hillel? Pshita, tanafka baskol. We know that there was a baskol that went out and told us that Psak halacha is always like Beis Hillel. Explains the Gemara in the last line of the Aleph Amud Beis, Iba Yisema Kaidem Baskol. Either this story happened before the Baskol, or Iba Yisema La'achar Baskol, or it was after the Baskol. And Rav Yeshua Yishet Da'amar, and this is the opinion of Rav Yeshua that says, Ein Mashkichin Bebaskol. We don't listen to Baskol. Says the Gemara of Savri Beis Shammai, the Berachos Hayom Adifa. Does Beis Shammai really hold that the bracha of the day comes first? Does Beis Shammai really hold that first you're Mekadosh Shabbos and only afterwards you see the bracha on the yayin? Ve'hatanya, but we learned in Hebraiso 3 lines down in Beis Amud Aleph. Anichlas Beis Motzei Shabbos. Someone enters into his house on Motzei Shabbos. Mevarach al yayin. You make a bracha on yayin. Valam ar on the candle, val besamim, and then vakach omer avdallah v'emein lo yelo kais, and if he only has kais echad 1 cup of wine, meinichoy lacher hamazon, leave the cup until you finish eating your malava malka, make benching on that cup, umishalshin kulan achrav, and everything goes in that cup. Now in this story, we see that even Beis Shammai is a maskim that in this brisa that the Havdalah comes after the bracha on the yayin. So why by us does Beis Shammai hold the bracha on the yayin comes after the bracha on the yayin, which should be the same thing? Mekadosh Shabbos and then the bracha on the yayin should therefore translate into Havdalah, and therefore the bracha on the yayin. But if Beis Shammai is masking that first comes the bracha on the yayin and then Havdalah, by Kiddush we should do the same. Says the Gemara of Hami Maidi Beis Shammai, Dom Beis Hillel, which I'm sure is something that was bothering people. How do you know the price we just quoted was Beis Shammai? Says do not think that it's Beis Hillel. Why? Because go into the particulars at the end of the brisa, in which it listed how the order of Havdalah is made. Tekatani ma'ar v'achach besamin. And now, Uman Shamisle. Who is this opinion that holds Islay Aisvara? Who's the opinion that holds? First comes the Ish, And then it comes Bisamim, it's Bishamai. Titanya. We learned in a Braisa. Rav Yehuda. 10 lines down, the first word line is Yehuda. Lo nechlu Beishami Beis Hillel al Amazain Shebetchila al Avdallah Shiba Saif. That's not the machlekes. Alma nechlu. What is the machlekes Beishami Beis Hillel when it comes to the Havdalah? Ala ma'ar v'ala b'samim. Beishamai, what comes first? Ma'ar, the candle, and the achach b'samim. And obviously we hold the reverse. Beis Hillel oimrim b'samim v'achach ma'ar. So now we've proven that the brisa has to be Beishamai, because the brisa said ma'ar and then b'samim. If it's Beishamai, now we have a kasha bayas, because bayas Beishamai said first comes the brach on the day, and then comes the brach on the yayin. But over here we see the opposite. Says Gemara, how do we know that it's Beishami according to Rav Yehuda? Doma Beis Hillel he v'aliba direm meir. Maybe we're going with Beis Hillel according to Rab Meir, which this is going to be on the base of the base. We're going to have a machlekes. What was the machlekes Beishami Beis Hillel? The machlekes between Rab Meir and Rab Yehuda. Says the Gemara, Lo Sagadayel. Don't think that we're going with Beis Hillel and Rab Meir. Tekatani Acham Asisa, because we learned in our Mishnah Beishami Aimrim Ner Mazain Besamim VeHavdalah. Beis Hillel Omim Ner Besamim Mazain VeHavdalah. V'Hasa beBraisa Katani. What did the Braisa say? The Braisa threw in this line that if you only have one kais, and therefore you have to bench ala kais, and you have to make Havdalah ala kais, but you have to have lava malchus, so you have to bench with that kais. But you only have one kais. So what do you do now? So you leave the kais until after benching, said the Braisa. I'll leave it there. So it must be Beishamai, because according to Beis Hillel, you're supposed to do the Havdalah after the Mazain. Only according to Beis Shammai do you do the Ner Mazain B'Sam and Havdalah. Says Gemara Mikol Makin Kasha. So Lamaisa, we're back to our question. How do we reconcile Shitas Beis Shammai? Does the wine come before or after the bracha on the Yom? Answers the Gemara, Kasavri Beis Shammai, Beis Shammai holds Shaini Lui Yoma Me'afuki Yoma. Says the Gemara, not everything is created equal. Taking in of the day, starting Shabbos is not equatable to ending Shabbos to Havdalah. Ayole Yoma, when you bring in Shabbos, says Beis Shammai, every single moment that you bring Shabbos in earlier is better. And therefore, you first make the bracha on the Yom, and only afterwards you make the bracha on the Yayin. But when it comes to Havdalah, Afuke Yayma, the opposite, every extra moment of Shabbos is better. You don't want it to appear like a burden. And therefore, particularly by Havdalah, that's where Beis Shammai holds Yayin comes first and Havdalah comes second. Continues the Gemara asking on Beis Shammai, V'savri Beis Shammai, Berachos Amazon and Tuna Kais. What is going on with this whole Braisa? About 14 lines on the white lines. The first one line is Te'una. Sounds like Beis Shammai is in agreement that when you bench, you need a Kais. V'atanam, but we learned in our Mishnah. If someone brings wine after the meal, right before benching, Beis seemingly says, first have the wine and then bench. My love, it sounds like you make a brach on the wine and then you drink it, and only afterwards you bench. It sounds like Beis Shammai does not concur that you would bench ala kais. Says the Gemara, Loi, Beis Shammai means that you bench on the wine, leave it, and then make you make a brach on the wine, you bench, ala kais, and then you drink the wine. Says the Gemara, wait, how can you do that? But we know the rule is you have to have a little bit of the wine when you make the bracha. Says the Gemara Nachanami, detayim, like you taste the wine and then you leave it for after benching. Says the Gemara of Amar Mar, 7 lines on the white lines, Ta'amai Pegamai, that if you taste the wine, it makes the wine pagam, it makes the wine not fit anymore for Koishel bracha, and you can't make Berachos Hamazon Kiddush Havdalah on a wine that was pagum, that was prior drunken. So how can you think you drink before you bench? Says the Gemara, Titayim lebi yadei. He doesn't drink straight. He spills a little on his hand and he sucks it up off his hand. Says the Gemara of Amar Mar Koishel bracha sarich shir. The Koishel bracha needs a requisite amount. And if you spill some into your hand, you're detracting and decreasing from the requisite shear. Says the Gemara, the Mishnah says, answers the Gemara. You have a little bit more than the shear. Says Gemara, what do you mean? But the Mishnah says, he says you only have one kais. Says the Gemara, yeah, trei lo have. You don't have two cups, but you have a little bit more than one kais. Continues the Gemara, 2 lines on the white lines. Vatani Rav Chia, Beishami Aimer Mevarich Al Yayin V'Shaysehu V'Achim Mevarich Amazon. So the Brisa says clearly, Beishami says you drink it. So Ella, we have no choice, but rather to say Trei Tanai Aliba Debe Shamai. But just to point out parenthetically, we saw in the Gemara over here that whenever you have an issue of a kais pagum, the eitzah is to spill it in your hand. Of course, this is where it comes from, both by a bris and by a Seder Kedushin, by a wedding, that we have a similar challenge, is that a bracha is made al yayin, but you don't drink it till after the Sheva brachas. You don't drink it until, I shouldn't say that, until after the Erusin. You don't drink it until after the Kriyas Shema of the bris. So what do? This is where the Eitzah comes, that when you make it, you spill a little bit onto your hand and you lick a little bit up. So what some do, some hold you don't have to do anything. You can just wait and drink it afterwards. Continues the Gemara on the first white line, Beishamei Aimrim. Now we're up to Netilas Yadayim, the second machlekes of Beishamei. Tanarabanan, Beishamei Aimrim Netilas Yadayim. First you wash your hands and then then you pour the wine for Kiddush. If you can tell me to pour the wine first, we're worried that the liquid on the out of the cup might become tamei from your hands. And make the kais tamei. So you want to make sure your hands are tar. You want to wash your hands and only afterwards pour the kais. Says the Gemara, Yadav like kais. Who cares? Let the tama go straight to the cup. Meaning, why are you telling me that if there's liquid on the outside of the cup, it might transmit tama, even if the kais itself says, saying no, because your hands are shnias. The only way tama is transferred from a sheni further is through a liquid medium. That what? No, it says if you wash your hands first, we're worried that the liquid in your hands, that after you wash your hands, you might not dry them perfectly, will become tamei from the cup. And they'll become tamei your hands. Says the Gemara, same kash, what does the kais make your hands straight tamei? What do you mean with the liquid medium? Says the Gemara, ein kli mitame adam. A kli cannot be mitame a person, so only if there's liquid on the outside of the cup. Says but let the cup be mitame, the liquid inside of it. So how do you be allowed to drink that liquid? Answers the Gemara, we're dealing with a cup where the outside became tame. Only the outside is tame, the inside is tar. The tanan. Kli shenitu achayr b'mashkon achayr of tameim as you turn over to the beis and mebeis toichai the inside v'ognai the rim v'oznai the ear v'yad of the handle to irid but nitma toichai then nitma kula then everything is tamei. One last line says Gemara b'maikam ifgi, what is the machlokes? Beishamei savri on the second line of the beis and mebeis. I'll use a kli that outside is tamei. Why? Because they're worried about droplets. Therefore, they want you to wash your hands first. And they're not worried about the other way that your hands might make the kais tamei. It's no problem using a kli that the outside is tamei. Droplets are not common. And we're worried the opposite. We're worried that the liquid in your hand might transmit tuma into the kais. Therefore, bedavka, they still want you to wash your hands afterwards. Sab over here, I'll pick it up from Davar Acher, the next shear.